Hi IST Superstars, it's Mrs. Bedwell here, and in this animation I'm going to show you how to make a bouncing ball. We're going to use some animation principles that we've learnt in previous lessons to give my bouncing ball that realistic, real-life look as it bounces on the floor and back up again. So we're going to be using two animation principles. See if you can pick up which two they are. So we need to start drawing the objects that are going to be on our stage, and that's going to be on our background. So the first layer that's there, I'm going to call that background by double clicking on the text, and I'm going to divide up my stage background into two sections, the sky and the ground. And it's the horizon line in between those that you see when you look out into the horizon. So as I draw, it will make a little bit more sense. So I'm going to draw in my fill color. I've turned my stroke, you'll see I've turned my stroke off. And I'm just going to draw a simple rectangle. And it's going to be positioned about 1/3 of my stage. Oh, I thought I pressed green. Maybe I didn't. Just do that again. I can always fill it. You'll see here that my rectangle goes over into the grey section, and that's no big deal because it gets cut off later. So that's going to be my ground, and then I'm going to draw another rectangle which will represent my sky. Okay, so where these two colours meet, or two shapes meet, is the horizon line. I'm also going to, with my brush, just draw some little blades of grass, just to make it that little bit more realistic. Okay, so my background's done. Now I'm going to want my animation to go for about 80 frames. So I'm going to insert, would I insert a keyframe or a frame? For a background, it's a static image. I want that just to be consistent, no movement. So it's insert frame or F5. What I can do with that layer as well is I can lock it. So then I know that I'm not going to touch it again. If it's locked, you can't do anything to it. So I'll keep that nice and locked. Now going to add a new layer. This is going to be my ball, which is going to sit on top. Call that ball. Okay, I'm going to draw my ball. So we know that balls have a circular shape, so that's what you start with. Hold down Shift to get an exact circle, and I'm not happy with that color. I want it to be a little bit more realistic, so maybe say a red. Okay. See how I've turned the stroke off? Makes it much more easier when I'm trying to draw. And to make it look realistic, we're going to have a gradient applied to it. So we apply the gradient by clicking on the fill, going to radial gradient. You'll see that there's two different types of gradients there. There's the linear, so for flat objects or flat surfaces, and then we have the radial for curved objects. So click on that. And then to adjust the actual color of that fill, then we move to the swatches panel. Okay, by clicking on the paint palette there. Click here, and then add a different color. Then I'll apply that. That's a better color that I want. Now, at the moment, the light on the ball is coming from the screen, okay, straight ahead. So usually in life we know that the sun is above us, so the light source is usually from above us. So we are going to just move that gradient where the white spot is. So we go to free transform tool. Underneath that there's gradient transform tool, and if we click and hold and drag, we can position. Okay, the center of that circle is where the white comes from. You can also increase and decrease the amount of white you'd like on your ball. You still want to have some dark areas to show that nice curved shape, and that should be fine. So deselect that. My ball is done. we can now start to animate our ball. So to do that, we need to be on the ball layer, right click on the ball and convert to symbol. Make sure that it's a movie clip and we're going to call this ball. Press OK. So at frame 1, I want my ball to be positioned up higher, where it's going to go to frame 80. So halfway in between, I'm going to insert a keyframe, and at 40, if I click Shift and drag down, I want it to sit there. At frame 80, I want it to go virtually back up to where it was. So if we look here, frame 1, 40, and 80. Oh, I must have been on 80. So at 40, go down, and at 80, insert keyframe, we're going to be back up. So again, 1, 40, and then 80 back up. So if I show you that by pressing Control Enter, okay, the ball is bouncing, but there's a problem there. It's not very smooth at all. So what you can do is create a classic tween. So again, classic tweens are only used for simple movements. So from 1 to 2 to the next, straight line, simple movements. So we click anywhere in between frame 1 and 40 on the ball layer, and we press create classic tween, the arrow appears, and then we do it again for the next side. So now if I press Control Enter, it's a bit more smooth. But what we know about balls hitting the ground is due to gravity, when we look at them, they appear like they are slow to release, so slow to come down, and then when they hit the ground, they hit it really quickly and fast, and then when it hits the ground and it comes back up, it's really fast again, and then it slows up towards the top. So we can achieve that to our tween by the process of easing. So if we click anywhere between frame 1 and 40 on the ball layer and go over to your properties panel, and we see ease. So with ease, you can either make it 100 or minus 100. 100 is ease out and minus 100 is ease in. So we're going to make that minus 100. And the next classic tween will do the opposite. So we'll make that 100. So now if we press Control Enter, see it starts off slow, speeds up, and comes back up, like as if it's coming up to hit your hand and you're pushing the ball down. We still want to, however, make our ball look a little bit more realistic, even further. Easing has helped us do that, but another way to do that is to give that squashing and stretching effect as the ball hits the ground. So to do that, we're just going to move this keyframe along to about 35. Okay, you can see what frame you're on by looking at the bottom here. Then we're going to add a new keyframe. So insert keyframe, move the ball down onto the ground at that point, and another keyframe at, say, frame 45. Okay, and again this one comes down as well. So at frame 35, the ball's going to look fine, it's going to look the same. At 40, we're going to give it a squashed look. So to do that, we need to use the free transform tool, which you can click over here, free transform, or just Q for the shortcut. And we're going to push it down and also push it out a bit. And then we also drag it back down onto the ground. And then at 45, it's going to start to stretch. So we're going to push it up and push it a bit in and move that to be on the ball. So now, when we press Control Enter, okay, it's squashing and then it's coming back up. Now you can exaggerate that even further if you want to, depending on what you're trying to achieve for your animation. I want you to have another go of maybe just even exaggerating that a lot more. So you can always go back adjusting it further. Okay, 40, maybe make it a little bit more squishy. Also, one thing I didn't tell you is you need to reapply the ease. So we've got the -100, that one stays between 1 and 35, but then you need to reapply the ease for the final classic tween. So make that 100, just to make it realistic still. So Control Enter. Yeah, much better. So that's our bouncing ball using classic tweens, but there is another way to do it using motion tweens. So I'm going to show you how to do that now. So on the ball layer, okay, I'm going to delete all the frames from frame 2 to 80. So if you select 2 to 80, holding down Shift, right click, remove frames. So still at frame 1 we have our ball, but this time we're going to insert a motion tween. Right click on frame 1 and press remove tween, and then right click again and press create motion tween. So now the blue bar has appeared, which means that our tween is there. So we want it to run all the way to 80, okay, and we can start to move our ball along a path. Okay, so here at 30, I want it to appear down here, and then at 80, I want the ball to come back up. So when we press Control Enter, you can see that it looks like the bouncing ball that we started with. We can now apply easing to that pretty easily here. So if we click anywhere in the motion tween, here we have ease. So there we want the -100. Here we want 100. Control Enter. Okay, and it's easing for us. So if we want to apply the squash and stretch, we can do that also. So we move the playhead to where the ball is sitting on the ground, transform, back on the ground, hold down Shift. Okay, then 30, add another frame in here. Control Enter. Okay, we've still got to reapply the easing to here. Oh no, it's still there. Okay, so we've done that 2 ways. Just depends, this one doesn't need an ease. That's why it's looking a bit funny. Okay, so no easing in between these 2 here, and just easing at the ends. And coming back up. So there's 2 different ways that you can do it. Again, simple movements for the classic tween, and for the motion tween where you need to apply a path, then that would be for more complex movements.